Hi, love. Okay. So we'll jump on and have a look at your website in a sec. Main things, everything that you've got is pretty great. Your writing's really good. I like the way most of the pages are laid out. Most of what I'm going to say is just about how you organise it and your about page. So you've got a lot of different things, a lot of different elements to your work, and it's just about streamlining it a bit and making it all a bit more cohesive, because you've obviously been adding things over time. You just added a new page to your website each time, and I'm just going to talk about how you can bring it all together, just so it feels like more of a cohesive body of work. So let's go and have a little look on your site. And here she is. So, it's a really cool image, this. I love this stone. Okay, that's the blog. Let's go to the home page. So what the big shift really for this site is that instead of starting with your home page and your about page being about birth, I want you to start with something that talks about the rhythm of life as it applies to all women. So you're kind of meeting women. What your work does, you're so much more than a doula. So I'll stop sharing for a second. So you're meeting women. You're really meeting women at a kind of deeper level in themselves, beyond just they're going to have a baby or they've had a baby. So I'd like to see something that's on the home page that talks about womanhood and talks about your relationship with womanhood, and then says, and I support women kind of through the whole thing. And if you want to anchor it in the womb, just let's hear about your connection with your whole body of work here. And then you can flag up, I help through the childbearing year, and I work with womanhood through various groups and workshops, which is then what you're going to go on and talk about in the other pages. In about me, then you can go into that in a bit more depth. You can tell your story. Hang on, let me share the site again. No, screen share. Let's go. So on your about page, what I'd like to see a bit more of is go back to the home page. You got it here. So I'd like you to take this, the way that you've kind of laid out. You might be faced with questions, you're looking for support, and I want you to shift this to speak to women. Because this, if that makes sense. So you want to drop down into your womanhood. You want to feel positive about your body. This might come up, this shamanic or spiritual aspects of birth and life. It's kind of like a tweak. It's like a tweaking, so that you're positioning your whole story has a much wider focus, because your work has a much wider focus now. And of course that focus encompasses birth, but it's much broader than that. It's not just. Also on the home birth thing. I think you could probably make this a bit briefer, your biog end of things. I mean, the thing is, you've had a really, really big journey, and I think that's really important as well. I'd like to maybe hear more about maybe your reflections on the journey and what you feel you have to offer. Supporting sexual abuse advisors. So there's a kind of theme of trauma that you're not pulling out quite so much. The reason I pull that up is to help you give some focus to all of this. You want to think about two things. You want to think about what you can specifically offer that's different from other people. And that's really the shamanic approach, the breadth of training. But really, I would say it's the shamanic angle on things, element, dimension of things, which makes you stand out. And that's the story that I think I'd like to hear most about, really, why you work in that way now. You're unflappable. Yeah, I'd also take from your testimonials, I'd go over your testimonials and pick out from that what themes are really coming out from your testimonials. So I'd feed that back in your about page here in your bio. Okay. Then all of these elements, all of this stuff, doula, shiatsu, belly dance, menstrual health, fertility, birth preparation, mother blessing ceremony, closing the bones, workshops and events. I'd like all of these to be kind of gathered together under two headings. One, the childbearing year, and the other one, womanhood. Under the childbearing year, which is currently where doula is, you're going to introduce something to start with about why it's so important to get support during the childbearing year. I'm based in Freedom, Somerset. Kind of needs to go on your about page, really. That's a repetition of what you say on your about page. Don't need to say that again. Then, so you're going to start with why it's important to get support in the childbearing year, and then you're going to have three things. Let me just check, is it three? You're going to have, antenatal and fertility. You can choose to have fertility separately if you feel that's important for the women. Doula, so actual birth services, and postnatal. And what you can do is just have three images here, so it's not like a very complicated editing job for you. And you can take some of the images you've got on the site and just use them and use PicMonkey just to put a word over them. So it's not a tricky thing for you to do. So you've got antenatal, fertility, antenatal, doula, and postnatal, and then each of those will click onto a page, and in that page, so antenatal, for example, you've got belly dance, shiatsu, mother blessing ceremonies, and all birth preparation. So they're all going to go in the antenatal section. Then doula, this is where you talk about your doula services. So now let's talk about your doula services. So I have a large collection of books and DVDs about pregnancy my clients are welcome to borrow. Shamanic dimensions of pregnancy and birth. I mean, I don't see why you can't just call yourself a shamanic doula, and that just gets the job done in that regard. You don't need to do this because you do this down here. So the standard birth service outlining that, you don't need to do that because standard birth service, and you outline it here really well. So I suppose what you're saying is everybody gets. It just feels like a lot of information to take in, and you could streamline it a bit. So, yes. Yeah, I see why you've done that. Okay, the birth preparation stuff all needs to go in antenatal. Birthing from within antenatal sessions. Yeah, postnatal support. Wow. There's so much here. I didn't even see that stuff at the bottom, the birth preparation stuff and the postnatal support. I would really separate them out. Because these are your whole packages. Let me just go back to these birth preparation, for example. It's just a lot of duplication. That's the issue. You don't want to be duplicating. So I would have that going from a separate page and not duplicate it in the doula page. So that's pretty straightforward. So then in the antenatal, you've got I offer shiatsu, I offer belly dance, and I offer birth preparation classes. And again, each one of these is going to link to a separate. It's going to link to these pages because the pages are fine. And mother blessing ceremonies. You can refer to via links these pages from the doula page. But I would really just want to. But the point about the doulaing is that these are packages which are going to include all of these things. Some of these tools include shiatsu, bodywork, belly dance, tuition. Rather than saying I might, I would say I'm going to do this for you. Rather than saying I might do some of these things with you, I would prefer to say this is what you're going to get. So 2 structured antenatal sessions, which could include shiatsu, belly dance, blah, 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 blah. Birth service. Birth support service. It's just, I would say there's quite a lot of duplication, and you just want to not be repeating yourself too much. Okay, belly dance. That. Yeah, I don't like having that link to the outside page. Click here for some guidelines on dancing and pregnancy. Oh. Aha. Hidden this away a bit. That should go on. This is what should be under resources here. Let's go back to belly dance. Belly dance circle. Belly dance classes for pregnancy and birth. So again, I would put this. So I would put the belly dance circle under womanhood, and I would put the belly dance class as just one of the things you offer in your antenatal services. It just makes so much more sense. Shiatsu again. Menstrual health. The shiatsu page I'm really happy with, but it's very clear. The only thing I would say about this shiatsu page is that it's really clear that you do shiatsu for pregnancy. Because you've got a picture of a pregnant woman. But again, actually, shiatsu during pregnancy is wonderful for them to rest. Yeah, it's quite tricky, isn't it? It's quite tricky because you're just offering so much, and I think this in itself is something that, yeah, you are doing so much. Fertility doula. This needs to go under. This needs to go under antenatal birth preparation. And this is gorgeous what you're offering. Let's go to menstrual health. This is fantastic, and this is what I would really have as your womanhood page. You could even call it menstruality if you want to. That would be, I would be really happy to see that. And then link here to all the events that you do. You don't need to link to the Red School. You don't need to link to this either. You don't need to link to this. You need to talk about what you're doing, and that's what this space is for. God, that's another thing that you offer. Wow. Yeah, so under menstruality, you'd have your Red Tent events. Your birthing from within goes under birth preparation. That's promoting other people's stuff, so that's something to just keep on social media. So what's this? Action. Yeah, so again, that links from the menstruality page. And so does that. Testimonials page is great. Gallery page is gorgeous. You can probably put those photos that are on the gallery could also appear elsewhere on the site. Mother Blessing Ceremonies goes under antenatal. Resources, there's your articles. Yeah, so the resources page, don't spend lots of time linking to other people's websites. That's something to do. That's something to do on your social media page. What you want to be doing is have a resources section that's you offering people resources that isn't elsewhere. And if you want to give people a PDF that's got loads of links, fine, but you don't want to encourage people to go off down the rabbit hole away from your site. You want to be pulling people in. Speaking of which, do think about how you're engaging people and bringing people here. You need to be sharing information about all this stuff regularly on Facebook. Hey, I'm a doula. Hey, I do birth shiatsu. Hey, I do belly dance. Hey, I do menstrual health. Hey, I do fertility. I mean, goodness me, if you picked up one of these things a week and then went back round to the beginning, then people are not going to get bored of hearing it. So I'd like to hear you talking about these more on social media. You're probably not in a place where you want to be thinking about mailing lists and so on, but that's obviously something that you could think about adding to this site as a way of engaging via mailing list regularly. But basically it's gorgeous stuff, really positive. You want to think about your overarching story, weaving in the menstruality and the birth to a kind of overarching shamanic womanhood supporter. That's because that's really where you're moving into being, and then just separate all of these things into under the heading of childbearing year and menstruality, and that's just going to look a lot cleaner. Know that you probably don't need to say as much as you do about yourself and your experience. That's repeated quite a bit, and try not to duplicate your services, and you're on your way. Lovely to look at your site. If you've got any questions, then do drop me a line, and I'm happy to clarify any of this stuff. Lots of love, Finn. Take care.